I'm Effie Barker. We are right here in downtown Los Angeles. When you say we're not going away with these issues, what are those issues? Good evening. Welcome to the special edition of Ugnayan. I'm Effie Barker. How do you explain, or what do you think about the supporters of Bongbong Marcos that was there during the martial law regime? Because a lot of them also I've read, because this is what my mom said. This is even my grandpa said. So in other words, it's not just the young generations. There were older generations. If some Filipinos support Bongbong Marcos because they were born after 1986, how
Right,
do you
right, yeah.
interpret the older Filipinos who support him?
Okay. Although of course the older generation, maybe they're not as versed in social media, um, but these are people who actually thought that Marcos did a lot of things for the Filipinos. Okay, um, because, well, one, there was no freedom of the press, so what they consumed for about 14 years was all the propaganda of Marcos. He controlled all the newspapers. Okay, um, so and they were made to understand that, oh, he was able to bring down the communist threat. Okay, um, and he actually, if you look at it, that has become the boogeyman, and it's still being used by Duterte now in terms of communists, right? That if you elect Lenny, that he would allow the communists, he would be in cahoots with the communists. So this has been used effectively, the anti-communism among the population, especially the older population, who were exposed to uh, the 1950s or 1960s communist scare that was propagated.
What is
Um,
it that really concerns you about Bongbong Marcos becoming a president? So they would understand.
okay, I am very much with this journalist who is
Mhm.
now is an award. She's an award-winning journalist. Okay, and she's now with the Columbia University School of Journalism.
Mm.
I very much agree with what she said. Okay, she said, I am sleepless because of what the Marcoses represent: world-class plunder, torture, and murder, with no acknowledgement, no apology, no repentance, no attempt at restitution, meaning giving back all the money that they stole, and not even paying their taxes on their inherited stolen wealth. So those are the things that keep us awake, keep me awake, and keep a lot of people awake, because this is the reality facing at us, that he could be elected, meaning all the misdeeds of his father and the family would be just swept under the rug. Okay, which means this very toxic um, practice of impunity, meaning people in power or who are wealthy get away with everything, practically everything, with murder, literally, um, are just, you know, voted in office and being able to again enjoy all the privileges and that that are connected with the office. So it's a very crucial election, Effie. It's going to really determine, as Maria Ressa of Rappler said, the results of this election would determine our past and our future.
Right.
Meaning, it could reverse what was in our past and also determine what our future would be, which is a very grim future, if you ask me.
I've read some people saying that the people who are against the Bongbong Marcos are just really against them or him or his father, just merely because they're Marcos, just merely because he is the son of Ferdinand Marcos.
Mm.
Had it not, had Bongbong Marcos apologized, they said if Bongbong Marcos just distanced himself from his father and apologized, oh, he's just nuts, I'm different, I'm his son. They said that the anti-Marcosists would still not support him. What do you think? What do you say? Na kahit
Uh,
nag-apologize siya na ibang tao siya,
okay.
still not support him anyway.
Okay. Well, we will have to look at his record, yeah, right? Um, he has um, he has misrepresented his education. Okay, he said that he graduated from Oxford. Um, that has been disputed by Oxford, that he was just given a certificate. Um, his record in Congress is lackluster. Okay, um, he has he is one of the safekeepers of the stolen wealth, and he admitted that it was reported that he was trying to withdraw hundreds of millions of dollars from the Swiss account, although he keeps saying that they have nothing, that this is just fake news. um, they haven't paid their taxes. Tax evasion is a crime in the Philippines, and they haven't paid billions of pesos in taxes. um, and he has not admitted anything that the father, that martial law, that the dictatorship has committed. Okay, so how would you vote for somebody like that? Okay, he has not even participated in any of the debates, because probably he feels very confident that because of the surveys that he could just swing it. But how will people know if you're applying for a job? You go for interviews, right?
Right.
Everybody who applies for a job cannot just take that job. You have to apply for the interview, and the debates is one effective way of judging whether a candidate is qualified or not. So it's not like, okay, why do you keep harping on the son? The son is not responsible for the
Right.
sins of the
What I
father.
heard
But
too. Yeah.
but but this is a different son. Okay, this is a different son. It's not like this son turned around and denounced all the repression done, torture, murders, disappearances during the dictatorship. He never has done that. He keeps giving the alternative facts. Okay, um, so I'm sorry, but this is
Wala
not
pa.
gonna
You
work.
if I was saying that, if even if he had distanced himself and be the different person than his father, you haven't seen it anyway, so you
No,
couldn't.
we haven't seen any of that. That's the thing. Okay, we only base our opinions on
Right.
facts,
Hypothetically, if he had, would you
not
support?
hypothetically. Sorry, it's hard hypothetically, but
Right.
but you're saying that
He hasn't.
and he has all these other qualifications, well, maybe people will take a different look.
Right. Right. Okay.
There are people who have done that against the father, or whoever in the family who has done something, but it really has to be a very sincere, honest, and he'd be willing to give up all the money that the family stole. He's willing um to make to accept all the the charges that have been proven time and again about the dictatorship. Okay, proven by so many human rights groups. Okay, and for him to make an apology, then that's a different hypothetical situation.
Right.
But I'm not
Okay.
sure whether I'll vote for him. Even if he did that, it depends on who he's running against and who has the better qualifications, right?
Right. Now,
Okay.
I take it you support Lenny Robredo.
Oh,
Um,
is it obvious? Is it obvious?
I can see that. Um, let's talk about women. International Women's Celebration is done a month ago, and there are
Yes, yeah.
right, there are two women running in this year's election. How do you feel about that?
Who's the other one?
Um, Bongbong's vice president is also a woman, Sarah.
Oh, you mean
Right.
okay? But for presidency, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So there are two women in this election. What? How do you feel about that?
You know, I will support a woman not only
Mhm.
because the candidate is a woman, but the
Right,
woman really has to respond to my criteria about what a good candidate is.
right.
Okay. What is a qualified candidate? What is a candidate who has really the empathy for people, especially the poor people? A candidate who thinks about women, children, the very poor, the farmers, the fisher folk. Um, Somebody who's qualified. You know, uh, somebody who's corruption free. Okay, and these are the traits that I found in Lenny Robredo. As to Sara Duterte, okay,
Yes.
um, yeah, she's a woman. She is a Duterte. I haven't seen her denounce her father's policies in terms of extrajudicial killings.
Mm-hmm.
She's kept quiet about that. So I see I see someone like Sara Duterte who's also quite like her running mate
Bongbong.
Marcos Jr. are a reflection of their father's policies. So that is not something someone I would support just because she is a woman.
I've also asked people around. I said, I'm having this interview. What do you want to ask? And many of them said that they have the younger generations now have their own like problems like mental health,
Mm,
illness, and many others. And many of them say that the martial law issues are no longer relevant to today's
mm.
reality. President Marcos has long been dead, and today's generation is facing, and maybe that's true, right? There's a lot of issues that the young generation are facing, new level of challenges, and they say, why can't you move on?
That's a very it's a very common question from those who are actually supporting Marcos. Okay. Um, if you remember in my book, I
Mhm.
in the opening pages is that I reminded people this very famous quote saying, "If you don't remember your past, you're bound to repeat it." Okay, so you cannot condemn people from reminding what happened in the past because the past informs what's going to happen in the future. It's not that we're trying to uh, to just hit people in the head with what happened in the past, but
Mhm.
we use it as a guide for the future.
Right.
Okay.
I
um if
Yeah.
and also they have to consider, the young people should consider, they are now paying for the 28 billion debt that the Marcos regime had incurred. Okay, it was 28 by the time he was overthrown in 1986. He left a 28 billion foreign debt that Filipinos are still paying up to 2025. That will have to keep paying until 2025. Yes, I think people can move on if with this criteria is that they admit what they did, that they return the money, that's still being, they still have, that's the actually the property of the Filipinos, of the Filipino people. And three is to um, really apologize.
Mhm.
Okay, those are the criteria that you can't just forgive and forget. Okay, there
Right.
has to be some kind of restitution for people who were affected. There has to be a correction of history, uh, affirmation of what happened. Otherwise, it's what are we?
I've got a few other questions, things that I've read and people had asked me to ask. They say that when you, these people that during the Marcos regime said that they say they keep on imposing their truth, eventually people will begin to wonder if it's ever true. This is sentiment of many Filipinos now, they say, and now they believe that what they are, that they're not truthful, and that they may be hiding something about their true affiliations today and during the martial law era. And they say that many people who are claiming to be victims of human rights during the martial law were actually involved with the communist movement and waged war on the government, which is treason and serious crime were laws. What can you
Let's
say?
see. Um, the victims of martial law who got restitution um, had to prove exactly what happened then. They had to go through a very thorough interview. They had to substantiate their claims with, you know, with proofs. I know someone here who got that, who was a political prisoner, who got that restitution. I think one of the women in my book, or maybe more than one woman in the book has have gotten restitution, and one of them, I'm not, maybe you don't remember, but she was raped in prison, uh, uh, emotionally tortured. The husband was tortured physically.
Mhm.
Um, these are the people. These are the types of people who got the restitution. I don't know, in terms of the claims, this has always been used, the communist claim. It's something that you have to go beyond that. Okay, um, maybe in the number of people there, some of them work with communists. I don't know. Okay, maybe in some of the rural areas, they happen to work with them for some reason or another. I have no idea. I'm not going to put judgment on people about who they work with. Okay, and in fact, the nun who is featured in my book,
Mhm.
um, very very courageously said something about, she was also accused of working with communists, and she very much denounced that accusation. Um, I don't remember now exactly what her words were, but she was, she's somebody who was open to working with everyone. It depends on what you're working for. Okay, if you're working for something really that will help a lot of people, she, she was also being accused of being a communist or working with communists, and she was able to uh, fend off those attacks because she she did was to help the poor and fight against repression.
Right.
So this has been, if you remember, this has been used by a lot of countries, the associating you, or what they call red tagging, that if you do something very helpful to people in the barrios or rural areas, you are immediately accused of being a communist or working with communists. It's become um, like a Marcos playbook, and now
Right.
Duterte has also
Yeah.
adopted it as his playbook. There seems to be, as I said earlier, a creative, very creative videos about uh, against Marcos Junior's, all exposing his so-called educational achievements, exposing the remaining billions of pesos of taxes that the family owes. Um, the kind of um, that he was actually convicted in 1995, I believe, for tax evasion, and yet he was able to escape jail term. He was, I think, sentenced to about 3 years in prison. So all these are coming out again. So it's, for me, it's like deja vu from the 2016 his 2016 campaign, because then again a lot of information about martial law and his family's misdeeds came out. So I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure about the balancing of how the Marcos Jr. and the Robredo campaigns are doing in terms of TikToks and Facebooks. Okay, but I see quite a bit of
Mhm.
videos coming from the Robredo campaign as well.
Right.
But I agree with you. They have a lot of resources.
Right.
Effie, they still have the money that they stole from the government. It hasn't been. Most of it has not been recovered by the Philippine government.